Hey guys, I'm Jill. Thank you for joining me for today's 30-minute sculpting yoga flow using a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, it's okay, you don't need one. You could use a pillow or skip it entirely. So this flow is going to start off with some focused strength moves, and then we're going to move into a bit of a flow and some stretch. Take off your shoes, grab your yoga block, roll out your mat, and meet me back here. All right, guys, we are going to get started in a supported bridge on our backs. So feet hip-width distance apart, heels in towards your glutes, press into your heels, and then bring the block on its medium setting to your sacrum. Bring your left hand to your heart and your right hand to your belly, or you can extend your arms long by your side, palms facing up. We're going to take 3 cleansing breaths here just to ground ourselves and move out of our day and into our yoga practice. Take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Notice how your belly lifts and expands as you drag the breath down. And an open mouth exhale with control, empty out. Again, inhale, drag that breath down through the bottom lobes of your lungs into your belly. Allow everything to expand, and then everything contracts and draws back to center with that open mouth exhale. Inhale, the most breath that you've brought into your body today, and follow it with the loudest, longest open mouth exhale. Now go ahead and continue to even out your breath. You can practice with sealed lips and a slight constriction in the back of your throat, creating that audible exhale. Or you can continue to take open mouth exhales. It's up to you. On an inhale, go ahead and blink your eyes open, press into your feet, gently remove the block, bring it off to the side, slowly lower the backs of your hips to the mat, and hug your knees into your chest and rock side to side. Just a little reset for your low back here. Now we're going to go ahead and use the block as we come into some additional bridges. So heels in towards the glutes. You should be able to touch your heels with your fingers. Take an inhale breath, and as you exhale, press into the corners of your feet, squeeze the block, squeeze your glutes, lift your hips. Inhale, articulate down, starting from the shoulder blades all the way to the tailbone. And exhale, lift and hug the muscles of the legs to the bones, squeeze the buns, hug the block. Let's do 3 more of those. Inhale, and use that entire inhale to lower down. And then use the entire exhale to come into the bridge. 2 more. Inhale, slowly lower. And exhale, lift and squeeze. Inhale, 1 more. Exhale, press into the feet, lift, and we're going to hold and pulse for 4. Keep squeezing. 3, 2, 1. Inhale, lower. And exhale, hug the knees into the chest. You can bring the block to the fronts of your legs. Rock and roll the length of your spine a few times. And then cross your ankles, leave the block just off to the side. We're going to come into that neutral tabletop position, quadruped position. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Inhale, drop your belly, lift your gaze, cow pose. Exhale, cat. Pull the belly button back to the spine, open up the upper back, and flow with your breath. Inhale. And exhale. Let's do 2 more. Inhale. Open up the collarbones, lift the gaze. And exhale, belly button towards spine, chin towards chest. tailbone towards the mat. Inhale, lift your tailbone, lift your gaze, cow pose. And exhale, cat. Come back to neutral. Grab your block and bring it behind your right knee. Hug it in. And we're going to come up into a donkey kick as we press the heel towards the ceiling. And then a hydrant as we lift the knee out to hip level. Exhale, press to donkey. Inhale, lower with control. And exhale as you lift to hydrant. We're going to do that 3 more times. Really hugging the block, activating the hamstring. Pull your belly button back towards your spine to keep your hips from opening up towards the right. You want to keep the hip points facing the mat as the heel lifts and then as the knee lifts. Keep the shoulders down and back away from the ears. And then come back to neutral. You can turn some circles with your wrists if that feels good. And then we're going to bring the block behind the left knee. Hug the heel back in towards the glute. Take an inhale and then exhale as you lift the knee to hip height, pressing through the heel. Inhale as the knee comes down towards the right knee. And then exhale as you open out towards the side. And just flowing with your own breath. Keeping the back of the neck relaxed and long, so your gaze is just beyond the front of the mat, and moving deliberately here, like you're moving through mud or peanut butter. It's a yummier option. And I believe we have 1 more each side. And then coming back to neutral, let's stretch our wrists a little bit. So go ahead and turn them east and west, and you can kind of sway from side to side. And then if you can turn one wrist back towards your knees, sit your hips back towards your heels, and then switch it out. All right, come back to center. Go ahead and grab that block and bring it to the center of your mat lengthwise. We are going to do some side-to-side push-ups. Like them or hate them, they're really good for us. So you can take these from your knees or from your toes. If you're on your knees, your torso should be at an angle, not just straight up and down. So we're going to walk our hands from side to side. Or if you want to be up on your toes in that high plank pose, you can do that as well. We're going to do 3 more in each direction here. Remember, from your knees or from your toes, total body movement. One more, each side. Keep your gaze forward, elbows pointing back at 45 degrees, and then go ahead and come up onto your knees. You can bring that block between your inner thighs if you'd like in either direction, and we're going to come into some WYTs. So bring your hands down, thumbs facing forward, loop the shoulders down and back, bring the arms up into a Y. Rotate the palms forward, thumbs facing in, pull down into a W, hug the shoulder blades in, extend the arms out to a T, and then bring them back down by your side. We're going to do that 4 more times. Inhale, Y. Exhale, rotate the palms, hug the elbows down into the W. Snuggle the shoulder blades in, extend out to a T on the inhale, And exhale, lower the arms. I want you to move with your own breath as slowly and deliberately as you can. So using that entire inhale to come up to the Y, the entire exhale to pull down into the W, and then the entire inhale out to the T. Exhale down, tailbone drawing down towards the mat. So this is strengthening all the muscles that are so important for good posture, strong shoulders, strong core. All right, I believe we have one more round left. Wherever you are, you're going to finish out that entire round. Come back down. All right, we're going to do a little bit more push-up work. So we're going to bring the block underneath our right hand, and from your knees or from your toes, we're going to do 4 push-ups with the right hand on the block. 1, 2, 3. There might be some pretty serious feelings going on out there right now. I know push-ups can be pretty controversial for. All right, go ahead and come down to your knees. Sit back into a child's pose, and we're going to thread that right arm underneath the left. So keeping the hips drawing back towards the heels, the right temple, right ear, outer right shoulder, or on the mat. We're giving that right arm a stretch. Go ahead and guide that left underarm down towards the mat as you press that left palm into the mat. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, sit your hips back just a little bit more. Inhale, go ahead and come up. And since we have 2 sides of our body, I think you know where we're going next. Bring that block underneath the left hand, right hand on the mat. From your knees or from your toes, 4 offset push-ups. So I want you to think about creating an arrow here. The top of your head to the points of your elbows are the arrow head, and then the rest of your body is the line of the arrow. Glutes are hugged, quads are hugged to the bones, pressing through the heels towards the wall behind you. 1 more, you've got it. And that was 4. Go ahead and move the block off. Sit back into your child's pose. Thread the left arm underneath the right. Press that right palm into the mat. Spiral the armpit down towards the mat. And snuggle your belly between your thighs. Come back to your breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. And go ahead and come back up on an inhale. We're going to bring that block between our thighs. We're going to come into a high plank just momentarily. And then use your core to lift your hips up and back into a downward facing dog. Take a very generous bend in your knees here. Create length as you press your palms, your fingertips forward and away. Hug the armpits down towards the mat so that the biceps spiral up towards the ceiling, and your triceps in the back of your arms spiral back towards your toes. You can pedal your feet here while you hug the block. You can find some stillness with bent knees. If you're an advanced practitioner and it's in your practice to bring your heels to the mat, you can bring your heels to the mat. Notice how that block is spiraling in and back as if you were trying to pass it towards someone behind you, and how engaged your legs are in this downward facing dog. This is how they should be even when we don't have the block. On an inhale, take a peek back towards your toes, and as you exhale, walk your fingertips back towards your toes. Inhale to a half lift, flat back, hug the block. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, use your legs to lift up to standing. Circle sweep the arms up overhead, Tadasana mountain pose. Side body stretch over towards the left. Side body stretch up and over towards the right. Back to that mountain pose, pinkies face in. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold, melt your belly over your thighs, knees as bent as they need to be, and walk yourself out into a high plank, top of a push-up. Bring your right elbow down to where your right hand was, left elbow down to where the left hand was, so that we are in a low plank or forearm plank. Inhale, shift forward onto your tippy toes. Exhale, draw your heels back towards the mat. Let's do that 2 more times, that plank saw. Inhale, onto the tippy toes, forward. Exhale, heels towards the mat behind you, moving with your own breath. Come back to neutral. Left palm to the mat, right palm to the mat. Downward facing dog. Walk your fingertips back towards your toes, forward fold. Inhale to lift, open up the chest. Exhale to fold, and inhale, use your legs, tuck your tailbone under, up to tall mountain. Exhale, side body stretch, pull the right thumb back, spiral the chest towards the ceiling. Inhale, center, switch it out. Exhale. Inhale, center, exhale. We walk our way all the way out into that high plank, top of a push-up. Bring your left elbow to where your left palm was, right elbow to where the right palm was. Chest peeking through, collarbones wide. Dip your knees to the mat on an inhale. Exhale, lift the knees away from the mat. Let's do that 4 more times. Inhale, lower and tap. Exhale, lift and squeeze. Pull your elbows back towards your toes, toes forward towards your elbows. You've got this. If you need to come down to your knees for a break, you can always come down to your knees and pull your knees towards your elbows and your elbows towards your knees. We have 1 more. Don't let that low back sag. And then right palm lifts, left palm lifts. Downward facing dog. Walk your fingertips back towards your toes. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Flat back, strong core. Fold on the inhale. And then lift all the way up. Squeeze the block. Tuck your tailbone under. Side body stretch. Can you get a little deeper? Bump the hips over towards the right as the fingertips reach towards the left. Come back up through center and switch it out. So the fronts of the hips stay facing forward. Inhale and exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold, walking it out into that high plank. Bring the elbows down to the mat, and we're going to come into some hip dips. Right hip to the mat, center, left hip to the mat, and we're going to do that 4 more times. So 4 more times to the right, 4 more times to the left, 3 more times to the right, 3 more times to the left. So my upper body isn't moving. The rotation comes from the belly button, the obliques. Speaking of the belly button, keep it pulled back towards your spine. 1 more each side. Come back to center. Press up to a high plank and back to a downward facing dog. Let's take the block out and go ahead and pedal the heels towards the mat, keeping the upper back open, the neck relaxed, the face relaxed. Step your left foot to the center of the mat. Inhale, right leg lifts. Exhale, step that right foot to the right thumb. Surrender the right or the left knee down and inhale, Anjaneyasana, crescent lunge. This is where the stretching portion comes in. Go ahead and find that block and bring it to the highest setting with your right hand underneath your right shoulder. And we're going to deepen this hip flexor stretch on the left by reaching the hand up towards the ceiling and over towards the right. So keep the shoulder blades snuggled down in towards one another. You can press the hips forward. And then go ahead and come back up through center. We're going to sit back into a hamstring stretch. You can bring the block underneath the left hand, and I really want you to think about digging this right heel into the mat and flexing the toes back towards the knee, almost like you're pulling the heel back towards you. That engages all the muscles in the back of the leg, and it really helps to protect all of the little connective tissue in the hamstring and near the sits bones. So think about your chest lengthening towards those right toes as the right toes lengthen back towards the chest. Then you can sit that the hips back onto that left heel. All right, go ahead and come back up. Move the block over to the left. Tuck the left toes. Inhale up to a three-legged dog. And we're going to open up the hip here by bending that right knee, stacking the right hip on top of the left, and then you can turn some circles with the ankle, or you can come into some hamstring curls here. So straightening the leg, pressing through the heel, feeling some heat, some strength that you're building in the hamstring and the glute on that right side. So whichever you choose, make sure that you keep your shoulders squared to the mat, and then go ahead and come back into a three-legged dog, and we're going to come into a half pigeon. So bringing right knee towards right wrist, right toes towards the left wrist, but I want you to notice, don't let your ego get involved here and tell you that your right leg has to be in an L shape. Notice how much of a bend I have in that leg, because I want to keep my shoulders and my hips squared to the front of the mat, and when I try to straighten the leg, I turn towards the left, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to stretch the hip. Speaking of the hip, we want to have some space between that right hip and the mat and the left hip and the mat. And you can come onto your block here on any setting, or if you don't need the block under your arms, you can bring it under your forehead as a pillow. As you give a little press into the outer right knee and the top of the left knee, squaring your hips, drawing that right hip back, left hip forward, and lengthening your waist up and out of your hips. Slowing your breath. And speaking of the breath, using it as a guide. Is it short and choppy? If it is, maybe you need to come back up today. And that's okay if yesterday you were in a full reclined pigeon, like with your entire body splayed out on the mat. Today might not be the same. We just have to accept where we are, and our breath is an excellent way to judge that. All right, go ahead on your next inhale, come up to your palms. Tuck your left toes under. Inhale that right leg up once again. And if a flipped dog is in your practice, go ahead and bring that right foot to the mat, sole of the left foot to the mat, opening up your chest towards the ceiling. Go ahead and carefully come back onto the right palm, pivot onto the left toes, re-extend the right leg, and then bring it down to the mat. Take a couple of breaths and some movement here in this downward facing dog. Ground your right foot, inhale, lift your left leg, and exhale, left foot to left thumb. Surrender the right knee down, grab the block, bring it underneath your left palm, which is directly underneath your left shoulder. And then inhale, right fingertips up towards the sky as the shoulder blades soften down the back. And then reach up, waist out of the hips, fingertips towards the ceiling. And then keep that lift as you reach those right fingertips over towards the left. Pull that right thumb back, open up your chest. Oh, feels really good in the front of that hip. And then go ahead and bring the right hand down, grab the block in the right hand, Lengthen the left leg. Remember, pulling the heel and the toes back to activate the muscles to keep the connective tissue safe. Yes, we're still stretching the hamstring. We're keeping our low back safe and all of those tendons in the hamstring sits bones area safe. Now I just noticed both of my shoulders were hunching forward, so I am going to actively loop my shoulders down back in their sockets as I lengthen my sternum towards my left big toe. And then go ahead and crawl yourself forward and place the mat off somewhere to the side. Tuck those right toes. Inhale, three-legged dog, left leg lifts. Stack the left hip on top of the right. You can turn those circles, or you can do hamstring curls. Focusing on staying squared to the mat, not opening over towards the left by really giving a press into that right hand. And then coming into that three-legged dog and our half pigeon on the left. So squaring hips and shoulders to the front of the mat, finding that space between the left hip and the mat. We don't want to just roll down there. And then lengthening your chest forward, coming down onto the block if needed, or forehead resting on the block, which is an option that I really enjoy. I find it really comfy here. Give a press into the outer left knee, the top of the right knee to pull the right hip forward, and hug the left hip back. And then imagine breathing space into your left outer hip. Relax the shoulders down away from the ears. Relax the back of the neck. Unfurrow the brow. And when you're ready, come up onto your palms. Scooch the block off to the side. Tuck the right toes, and as slowly as you need to, make your way up into that three-legged dog and come into that wild thing or flipped dog if that's in your practice. And then we'll make our way back into our final downward facing dog of our time together. Go ahead and walk yourself through to a seat. Sitting up nice and straight and tall, slowly roll down onto your back. Hug your knees into your chest, rock side to side. Goalpost to the arms, knees to the left, gaze to the right. Think about lengthening the space from the right shoulder to the right hip. And then on an exhale breath, hug the knees in. Take an inhale. Then exhale, knees to the right, gaze towards the left. Not wrenching, not forcing. Exhale, come back through center, hug the knees in, bring your forehead towards your knees. Take the deepest inhale breath you've taken today, and the loudest, longest open mouth exhale as you find Shavasana. And friends, this is where I'm going to leave you. I hope that you have the gift of time and that you could spend between 2 and 5 or even more minutes in your Shavasana.